At some point in the digital age of boss babes, new money, and ambitious rookies, we stopped consulting our village's wisest. Women have been the heartbeat of the world within their respective communities, workforces, and families since the dawn of time. They are the magic makers, the peacemakers, and the ass kickers. Let's celebrate them with the Matriarchy Party. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Matriarchy Party. I have got quite a guest for you today, and I'm telling you, I'm shook that you're just right here with me. I have none other than Tara Hitchcock, legend to all, especially here in Arizona. I feel like, well, we did meet, I want to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, here in Phoenix at a charity event. Shout out to Treasure House. And I was like, did a double take, and I feel like we were just chatting about Arizona, and you're like, did you grow up here? Did you know? I was like, girl, everybody knows who you are in this whole room. Don't act all modest like you're not the Tara Hitchcock, who I grew up on my TV every day. But we're the same age, and we're such kindred spirits, so it doesn't make any sense that you were. I wish we were the same age. Let me dive into your epic bio, because I'm like, I want to dive right in, but if you know, it's 700 pages long because she has so many Emmys and accolades. Tara Hitchcock, multi-Emmy Award winning journalist, former host of the highly rated Good Morning Arizona, which I was just saying was on my TV all the time, on 3TV, that she was there for 15 years. She joined KTBK in April 1996 from Beaumont, Texas, where she was general assignment reporter, producer, and news anchor on the 5, 6, and 10 p.m. news. Currently, you can see Tara at any Harkins theaters as she hosts Behind the Screens, interviewing everyone from Meryl Streep to George Clooney. We run into each other on red carpets monthly, seemingly.
Yep.
She can also be found weekends back with her friends on Good Morning Arizona with her At the Movie celebrity interviews. Tara recently took home another Emmy. How many Emmys do we have now?
I think, you know what's sad is I don't
know. There's too many.
Well, I shouldn't complain. I'm very, very grateful. I have 5, but I never entered when I hosted Good Morning Arizona, and I did that for 15 years, and I never even entered. And
so there's at least 15 others you could have had.
I'm sure. No, I'm kidding. But there is a part of me that's bummed because we had such a great time on that show, and it was such a group effort, as you know.
Yeah.
And I'm bummed I never thought to put something together during those years and, just wing it. And the Emmys is interesting because you have to enter and then you're nominated and it's a whole process. And I never even, entered during those Good Morning Arizona years. And I regret that a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
So many more gold figures that you could have had on your show.
Not just, well, that would have been nice, but not just because of that. Obviously,
you accomplished so much in that
I feel
time there.
So grateful, yes. It represents, honestly, it represents a time in our industry that doesn't necessarily exist anymore. When the owners of your company are basically your parents, they let you do whatever you want. I mean, now it's big corporations and, focus groups and Q scores and social media and all this stuff. And back in the day, Dell and Jewel Lewis owned this TV station and literally let us do whatever the heck we wanted. It was just a blast.
It's like the Wild Wild West.
It was. I mean, we didn't get in any trouble, but the motto of our bosses was, "Are you still having fun?" Every day I got asked that question. You still having fun? I got called into the office.
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be, but it's not that way. So anyway, that's why I bring up the entering during those years. It would be nice to have something that kind of reminds us of that time.
Well, and I know what you're most proud of is your travel series.
Besides
maybe
my family,
most, but yeah, I mean, that's
my number one. That's my number one passion. So the travel stuff has been a total blast. But honestly,
Real Travels with Tara, that you were inducted into the Rocky Mountain Emmy Silver Circle Society last fall. Say that 5 times fast, In addition to traveling and talking, you can also read her periodic Tara's Big Travels columns in Phoenix Magazine. And she's a frequent contributor to Jet Set Magazine and CityLifestyle.com because you're on an airplane maybe more than me.
I am not. However, I'm not concierge key, and somehow you are, and I love it.
It's the bane of our friendship. You're like, if I have to hear one more,
I want you to tell me everything.
It's one of my top 3 proudest things in my, which is just a silly first world, exciting, silly accomplishment.
It's the greatest.
If you're going to be on an airplane, what are we, George Clooney and Up in the Air? But anyways, I could go on and on about all of your accolades here, and I'm literally reading it because there's so much to cover.
Let's move on.
But you're like, I'm already bored.
Nobody cares.
I live it. Everybody cares.
See you.
Everyone's impressed. Everybody, I mean, have worked with, just like you, many A-listers that are very impressive. But you know how many times I'm stopped on the street. No, never. But I mean, like my friends and family member who's like, girl, you know Tara Hitchcock? Yeah. That is the coolest thing. Everybody loves you. You're so good at your job.
Oh, that's so nice.
I'm so honored to know you and call you a friend. I mean, like, we haven't even got in here yet. But I'm like, I just love seeing your face, especially when we're at work and we get to fangirl together and take photos on carpets. But thanks for being here at Matriarchy Party.
I'm just so you've been talking about this for quite some time.
I know.
So when I saw your pink velvet suit and the photo and the studio, and I was just so excited.
We're doing the thing.
So proud of you. Yeah,
you were so instrumental and encouraging, and me just doing it already. So I thank you for
having fun.
Yes.
To quote my old bosses,
exactly.
Are you still having fun?
I am. Good. It is so fun, and that's why I'm like, it's wild that anybody that I don't isn't just like a handful of friends or family like throwing me a bone and listening to it. But I'm like, I'm having fun just talking to people that I love and admire.
It'll grow all organically when you do what you love.
That's great. Just keep it fun.
Yep.
Well, who are we talking about today? Who are your matriarchs?
You know, it was interesting because I've listened to some of your podcasts and I've heard the other stories. I grew up with matriarchs. They were probably my two grandmothers. Sadly, I was never really close to my mom, still not really close to my mom. So it was my grandmothers. They were the ones I kind of looked up to. And honestly, I was such a guy's girl growing up. Most of my friends were guys. Yeah, I'm extremely close to my father. He is the most important person to me. However, as I've aged, I have recognized just the value of having those matriarchs in your life. And I've made so many more incredible friends by realizing just the value that they bring to my life. But probably my grandparents, my mother's...
Since you turned 25.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to say I'm 53. And I have no issues. I feel very young. No. So, but you're, my stepdaughter's age, basically. So it's a little bit surreal.
You're hot and young. That's why but nobody's going to believe that you're 50.
Oh, yeah. I am. My mother's mother, Polish, she was a nun. My grandfather, who owned a funeral home, pursued her at her convent and used to stand outside her window and sing "You Are My Sunshine" at the top of his lungs. And basically, the nuns forced my grandmother to go out with this guy. It's kind of a fun story. She was very, very important to me. Sadly, passed away from breast cancer years ago, but I was blessed to have her in my life until I'm trying to think how old I was when she passed. My mid-20s. So I feel, some people never get that chance. My father's mother, so I had Babci, my mother's Polish mother, and Nanny, my father's mother. And, it was so interesting. It was that time where their lives were basically about their families and their husbands. And one of the things I learned was I don't want to be, I don't want to be necessarily the person who spends their entire life helping their husband grow and not allowing yourself to grow. So they kind of modeled good and bad for me and served as matriarchs and mentors.
You could see what you like and wanted to
create and be inspired
by, or
what I didn't want to do.
Absolutely didn't want to.
Which is just as important a lot of times.
For sure.
But they were incredible people, and I just adored them and was fortunate to have them for several decades in my life.
Grandparents are so important. And I feel like they get a chance to maybe parent differently than they did with the first time around.
They can give us back at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it fun? You can have all the sugar. Bye.
Yep.
I love that. And then potentially some career matriarchs as well.
I knew, I've been in TV for so long. I knew very early on. I was one of those kids that knew very quickly what I wanted to do. And I can vividly remember.
You came out of the womb and you were like, boom.
I was a talker. I mean, I definitely was a talker probably out of the womb. I know.
Us? No.
But the TV thing, we had moved from New Jersey to Dallas. And I was, believe it or not, somewhat shy, very nervous to make this move. In Texas, especially where I grew up in Plano, for anybody listening that's familiar with Plano, it is the football powerhouse, cheerleaders, drill team, hotness. And I was kind of this gangly, quiet person. And there was a teacher I had who just saw something in me and said, what you should do is you seem to like current events and news. You should get involved in this speech class. And I thought, wait a minute, you're going to have me stand in front of people and deliver speeches?
Because you were really shy at the time?
Because I was shy at the time. But she saw something in me. She was like, just trust me. Well, that's a whole other story,
Oh.
because she ended up kind of in Mary Kay Letourneau fashion. She ended up having a relationship with somebody a student.
Oh,
basically.
well, then we won't name drop her.
we
But
won't
thank you
name
for the
names.
inspiration.
Yeah, I'm only giving a certain amount of the facts. However, I can't overlook the fact that she was absolutely instrumental,
For sure.
and was on the, if you want to do your research, she was the speech and debate coach at the high school later on, and that was my jam. I did speech and debate all through high school. That was my big thing.
She
Speech
saw
and debate
it in
tournaments.
you.
She saw it in me, and I remember in 6th grade doing this current events class, doing these speeches and watching Diane Sawyer and thinking, that's what I want to do, because I only really had 2 goals. I did not want to get bored, and I wanted something to change daily. And I thought, well, news makes all the sense in the world. It's different every day, you're never bored. And I wanted to have
Cut
fun.
to, are you still having fun?
Yes, got to. Am I still having fun? And I am. Yeah.
I love that. Well, wow.
So Diane Sawyer was one. You can name any female in the broadcast industry who came before me. And I mean, Oprah, of course. I mean, everybody in our industry says Oprah.
Of course.
But these women that just paved the way, Barbara Walters, I mean, the list goes on and on. Katie Couric, everybody.
So many.
Yeah.
Well, I always start with the same first question. When we think of a matriarch, we think of a woman who's the head of their family, tribe, organization. When in your life did you feel like you had to demonstrate any of those traits, or maybe whether by necessity or not, had to kind of rise up and either looked around and were like, whoa, I'm in charge here. I'm the matriarch of my own life, or any defining moments?
You know what? That probably becoming a stepmom. That was a huge deal. I met my husband when I was 32. We got married at 34, and I had a really fortunate situation. When I met him, his kids were 6, 11, and 14. The 14-year-old being my stepdaughter, and then I've got 2 stepsons. And I had dated a guy in Beaumont who had 2 sons. I'd never dated anybody with kids before, and I was younger. And I tend to trend older with the men in my life. He was older and had kids. And I feel like that prepared me for actually becoming a stepmom. And it was one of those situations where, the kids were wonderful to me almost instantly. When my husband proposed, they all got down on one knee and proposed. Oh. They were all in the wedding. They all came on the honeymoon. So I've had a really neat relationship with all of them, individually and as a collective. And I'm one of those people. I've always been a control freak. I'm type A. So especially when they were in school, I was involved in parent-teacher conferences.
All in.
I was all in.
Like
It was
born
like
for
I
this.
was doing school all over again, and it was a blast. I loved it, but I definitely became kind of the matriarch in the family.
Yeah.
It was interesting and a blast.
That's so interesting, because I feel like it could go one of 2 ways. Like,
100%.
I feel like that relationship must be so complicated with biological mom and like being welcomed into the fold, and the kids are old enough then to kind of be aware and maybe confused and they just welcomed you with open arms, and you still have such a great relationship with.
It's so, I mean,
sure
again,
it evolves,
that's a
like
whole,
any
it
motherhood.
evolves. It was definitely challenging. I mean, there are so many stories about, being a step parent and dealing with, an ex-wife who parents extremely differently than you do.
Yeah.
What your role is in all of that, how the kids respond. I mean, there's, the whole thing is strategy and education and
For
everybody involved. But I definitely, and I think they would all agree, became the matriarch of the family, for sure.
For sure. And now you've been married how long?
19 years.
19. Shout out to Ken Francis.
Yeah. But you know what? Again, I mean, it's been such a, everybody who's married knows it's not easy. And in our careers, when we're traveling all the time, you have
to have a very patient, flexible, understanding partner to support you running off and gallivanting with movie stars.
Well, the good news is he also enjoys to gallivant.
Yes.
He has his own set of pretty adventurous hobbies.
feels
So
like
it's fun both ways.
You do a great job of like having your own separate interests and hobbies and coming back together and sharing so much in common. And I feel like that's such a great balance of being able to just let each other fly and also come back together and do the things that you both want to do together.
Exactly.
So groovy. What, I mean, like we said earlier, your family is your proudest accomplishment. And I feel like the dynamic that you have now.
Well, and my sisters, I forgot to mention, and they're all matriarchs in their families.
How many sisters?
I'm the oldest of 4.
All daughters.
All daughters, yeah.
Oldest
4
daughter?
girls, oldest daughter. I know. And we've got a set of twins in our family. So my twin sisters are 4.5, 5 years younger than me. And
Did I know that?
Listen, it was probably on a red carpet and Timothée Chalamet was there. So I'm sure it got lost. It got lost in the mix somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, I know you've got two sets of twins in yours. And twins are the best. What's funny, my dad sadly is going through a pretty significant cancer journey. And so I've been with him a lot, but I've always been somewhat close to the middle sister, the one that's only 2 years younger than me. We were not close growing up. We fought all the time. And honestly, I was so busy with speech and debate tournaments, I wasn't really home a lot. But she said something so funny to me the other day. She goes, I can't believe how much I love you. And I thought you sucked growing up. We hated each other growing up, but we are thick as thieves now. And
girlhood is complicated.
It's sisterhood too, for sure. But she's, an amazing matriarch and also my inspiration. Yeah.
And so you have nieces and nephews through.
I have, and the best set of nieces and nephews. I've got
probably
two
the coolest
nieces,
aunt. Come on.
I am the cool aunt. I do allow them to do some cool things, but I have to tell you, they are all pretty badass.
That's awesome.
All of them. I've got my nephew Toby is just a stud athlete. I've never seen an athlete like him. My nephew Carlo is at UConn. My niece Haley, raised by my sister, who never married Haley's father, but they co-parented and did a great job doing that. But Haley's been through a lot, and she just graduated from the University of Hawaii, and she is just wonderful. And Lucy is, I want to say 14 or 15. She's the one she has just blossomed into the kind of beauty that you're concerned about because of social media. She said to me this summer, she was dating this guy named Shaunik. You got to follow Shaunik. He follows you on Instagram. I go, I am not following Shaunik after 2 weeks of dating. Sorry. And sure enough, a week later, she'd broken up. Don't follow Shaunik. I'm like, listen.
I saw this from a mile away, girlfriend.
I saw this a mile away, and I'm so concerned for my sister, your mother, who now has to navigate social media and your Instagram account. But Shaunik is no more. Hopefully he's not listening.
Good luck to you out there,
Sorry, Shaunik.
He follows you, so he's going to see it.
He follows me, and he's apparently pretty devastated by the breakup. So I don't know what's going to happen there.
I feel for you.
I feel for you, Shaunik.
It's all about being the right time.
Yes.
Maybe
timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
But the name is cool. I love the name.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
It made me giggle that you were like, I was too busy at speech and debate because my little sisters, even now in our 30s, they're like, yeah, you were probably at cheer practice. And I was like, what, last week? Right. They're like, oh yeah, you were too busy. I was like, I don't remember this happening. Where'd you go? And just, yeah, you're probably at cheer practice. I was like,
You know what? Don't you find this is happening a lot lately because I've seen my sister so much lately. Don't you find it fascinating that we can experience the same thing under the same household as kids and our perspective is so different?
100%.
I've had many conversations where, one of them will say, remember when this happened? I'm like, that's not how it happened at all.
Right.
And they are just as convinced that I'm wrong. And how do you argue with that? You can't.
And everybody's truth is their truth.
Yeah.
I mean, and not to go like a hard pivot, but we're watching like the Depp Heard Netflix documentary. And it's like, it's like 3 hours and you get right through it. But you're just like, their truth, they're both probably have some substance things. They both have some mental health things. They both are not perfect people. But I was just like, we weren't in the room.
Right.
Like their truth is their truth. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. But on a lighter note, yes. I was like, not just as the first thing that came to mind, but thinking of any of my siblings or thinking about friends that now have little children and like, they all have the same parenting. They all are so different. How do they? And I'm like thinking about me and my siblings and I'm like, I don't know. My sisters and I are very similar, but I'm like, and then my twin brother, then sometimes I'm like, what?
Yeah. Michelle Obama tells a great story in her book and also on tour about how her husband, Barack Obama.
Maybe you've heard of him.
Yeah. Just assumed he could parent the younger daughter just like he had done the older daughter, who was apparently much easier for him. And she had to constantly remind him they are different people. You can't parent these girls the same way. What worked for girl A doesn't work for girl B. And he, according to her, was very confused and lost. I mean, but women are savvier that way. We
pick up on it.
We pick up on it. I think we can read people a little bit better. We can pivot.
Yeah.
And men sometimes, as great as they are at stuff, are a little bit helpless in that field sometimes.
I don't know why that is, but I do want to read her book. I still haven't read it yet, but I think that is so interesting. I mean, it's just like in the workplace. You have situational leadership. You can't manage people the same way. Everybody has different needs in that way. But, what does success mean to you right now in your life?
Oh my gosh. I am definitely I'm going through hormonal issues. So this may be, has anyone cried yet on this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This may be the first time I was going to say, but apparently not. So
You don't strike me as a crier.
Lately, I have been a weepy mess.
I'm always a weepy mess, so let's just,
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, I'm very emo.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just like, Walgreens commercial or like, the Sarah McLachlan song with the dogs on the
oh, yeah, that gets you every time.
And you're like, oh, no.
That gets me every time. Although I will say, I wish I could say I'm emo. I'm just menopausal. So sadly, that's my excuse.
It's a different reason for being emo. So sorry to cut you off there.
No, I'm thinking about success. So success for me right now is shifting. At the end of the day, I've always believed you just have to do what you love. End of story. Yeah. My stepkids two of them are going through transitions as well. And my husband is always, he's very successful. He's always been, yes, do what you love, but also do what might bring you the most financial success. Sure. All of that stuff. We have somewhat different perspectives on it. And I've sort of lived in la la land, just doing what I love. And the money kind of follows and things tend to happen. If you're a good person and you put the good energy, you're instrumental in the whole manifestation thing. You do all of that great stuff. And I think that's why things tend to happen for you. You know how you have some friends where it always seems like nothing goes their way. They're the ones that always miss the flights. It's delayed. And,
it's always something.
And it's the friend that usually has kind of the chaotic energy that happens to versus the ones that are just positive and whatever's going to happen, it happens. And so I don't even know if I'm answering your question. I'm kind of rambling.
No,
right now. So I think at the end of the day, it's doing what you love to do. But now I feel like there have been some mistakes that I've made over the years, focusing maybe too much on some of the things that I was doing for work versus, spending more time with my family. And there are some areas where I think things have suffered where I could have been better at. So right now I'm evaluating all of that. But at the end of the day, it's still doing what you love with the people that you love.
Oh, yeah. And
that's success to me.
It's an ebb and flow, right? I mean, like anything that you're giving 100% to, other things are going to suffer.
Yeah.
And whether or not I think in a relationship, sometimes you're the flower and sometimes you're the gardener,
Yeah. That's
and
a good
sometimes
analogy.
and that's like with everything. Like I know friends who are mothers, like 100% that, something else is going to suffer because all of that. So it's hard to balance and something's gonna, I don't even want to say suffer. It's just like something's not going to get your 10 out of 10.
Right.
But I see the older I get too, that I think, success doesn't look the same way that I thought it was going to look when I was 18 years old. And I thought success means X. And it's a privilege to be now in a place that you're like accomplishing so many things that were once just dreams that now is a reality that then, if I hadn't accomplished some of these things, would my perspective be different? Probably.
Right.
But to be able to look and be like, oh, you know what it's really about is enjoying what you love and being around the people that fill your tank up.
Yep.
If that's friends, if that's family, but.
Well, and this podcast, we talked at the beginning about how you're kind of you joked about your family members, the ones who listen now, and it kind of grows on its own. In our business, success is measured so differently now. Now it is about likes and how many views.
Yeah, the metrics
clickbait.
of social.
I can't keep up with that. And I have had so many conversations with friends about how grateful I am that we didn't have this when I was growing up because, we would show up. We didn't know what our friends were doing. We didn't have to listen to all their interviews and go, oh crap, they asked better questions than me. And now I'm stressed and I only get 3 minutes versus I used to get 10 minutes. And they're influencers and they got X amount of likes and I only got, it's this whole new world of
and a different component.
So I've always been blessed by good timing professionally and personally. Even the Good Morning Arizona job kind of happened. It was all about timing there, which was crazy to me. But I've got that story throughout my lifetime. And one of the things recently I've been thinking about is how grateful I am that these phones and all this stuff wasn't there when I started out in the business, because I'm not sure if I would have still done it. You have done such an incredible job, and you've actually served to keep me on my toes. You're so good at it, and you never let it get to you. You don't get a bad comment and it affects your entire day or anything. Well, you keep it all into perspective.
Thank you.
Such a good job.
Nice. I'm I have not as many followers as you do, or when I think about people with 40 million followers,
oh my gosh.
I think I would take it so personally.
Yeah.
And I'm always on the internet, chronically online. Thank you. I'm trying to do a good job, but I think doing it for clients is different than doing it for yourself and not taking it personally. Even
100%.
I get so invested in a project I'm on for 3 weeks or something. If they get a bad review, I'm like, how dare you? I'm so drinking the Kool-Aid that I'm like, these people are my family, and how dare you speak about my family that way? But
you've done that a couple times with movies that you're assigned to, and you travel with that. I love watching your stuff when there's a movie that I just did the junket for. Or I did
because you're like, I know they're my friends too.
I got like 3 minutes with them, and you've been to Tokyo and Paris, and you've basically become BFFs with these people. And I always see your stuff, but it is funny where if it's a film that I wasn't a huge fan of, by the end of the press tour, you're like all in. You're like, it's the greatest.
You're like, are you sure? Do you want to watch it again? I don't know. Maybe it's because you saw a screener with
the people are great.
Yeah, 100%. And that doesn't. I mean,
but you're also honest. You're honest, and you. Yeah. But I don't know if you've ever been. You've been pretty lucky too. I don't know if you've ever been assigned to a film.
Total
that
dud.
hated. Yeah.
No, I think really
cool projects.
Even in the moment, if it was like I always say, some of them are energy drainers and some are energy givers on these press tours. Or I'm sure just even interviews are like, wow, it's dragging on forever. Where some of them you're like, oh my gosh, could I just spend a whole week talking to them? But yeah, I think that even in the moment, I'm like, okay, take it for what it's at. And now I can kind of advocate for myself a little bit differently. Whereas at the beginning, I'm just like, say yes to everything and do everything. And even if it kills you, just be everything, everywhere, all at once. But what's funny is I was going to say was, how do you think technology evolving has changed women's lives in particular? So that's a great...
On so many levels. I always used to feel like I was a pretty confident person, and you can't... It is so hard. I'm trying to get better about screen time, but it is so hard to not get sucked into, maybe my arms are a little flabby, or, there's just so
being
much
so critical by watching yourself nonstop.
Or why am I not doing more things? This person's doing whatever.
And it's all a fantasy. It's a highlight reel. Everybody's just posting the best and not the worst of their lives.
You know, who had a great, oh my gosh, why is her name spacing? I'm spacing on her name. The actress from The Office that played John Krasinski's girlfriend. I love her.
Pam. Jenna
Fisher.
Yeah.
I interviewed her once, and we were talking about Instagram and social media, and her whole thing was, I pretend literally my 3 best friends are the only ones looking at my Instagram. So my Instagram is geared toward my 3 best friends, and that's all I do. And I don't get caught up in, because I've got friends, we both have friends that, okay, I get it, you're in first class with your fly, I get it, and it's all the time. And so her point was, every time you want to post, and there are definitely days where I'm like, I just need a good pick-me-up, so I'm going to post this great picture of myself so everybody can tell me I look great. Little dopamine hit. But she goes back to, what is my intention? Am I posting this thing because I want people to tell, oh, you look great,
I'm so jealous?
Or am I posting this because I genuinely want people to experience what I'm getting to experience, and I want to share it with them? Like, what's my motivation? And she had such a neat perspective. It was basically, I just pretend my 3 best friends are whatever they're interested in, I'm posting for them.
And to your point, I mean, if you were like your first class and you're popping bottles every day, your 3 best friends would be like, really?
Yes, show
it's
me
too
everything.
Much.
Right. Or you're right, every other day.
Yeah, or just like, I want to see every detail, but also I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. It's like, why am I posting this?
Well, with travel, I'm always like, why am I looking at this girl's ass? I want to see the mountains. Like, why am I looking at this woman and her butt again? Just show me where you are.
I wanted to see the view, but I
get it. She's got a million likes.
Yep. Well, describe a time we're asking for you what you want paid off.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like you're very much a fellow ask for what you want gal.
All the time. My number one motto in life is always, and has always been and will always be, it never hurts to ask.
Yeah.
Period. Whether it's your flight's delayed and you have the option to maybe see what else is out there. It could be something so minute or something very massive. Probably the best example is the Good Morning Arizona job, honestly, but I ask all the time. Even when I travel, I can give you an example of I was in Krakow, Poland, and in the center of town, there's this church, and at a specific time, you can watch the guy ring the bell, and it's a big deal. And of course, the one day I'm there, it's closed. I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be somebody that
Who can I talk to?
Who can I talk to? So sure enough, you work your way around and you find somebody who's working there. You make friends with them. You act interested in what they're doing, and I'm always genuinely interested in what people are doing. Next thing you know, he's taking me up to the bell tower. That was just asking. I have a gazillion examples when I travel of that, just asking, just showing interest and asking. But the Good Morning Arizona thing was interesting. I was working in Beaumont, and you get caught up and all of a sudden you hear of a friend that got a job in Indianapolis, and you're like, ooh, a bigger market. Should I be leaving? And I was a big believer.
Before social media. You just get
way before social media.
You get wind of somebody doing something.
Well, she tells you. She's like, yeah, I got a job. And you think to yourself, all right, is it my time? And I was big on, I don't want to leave too soon. I want to leave after I've made as many possible mistakes in a smaller market as I can. So that the fewer people, a fewer number of people get to see them. So about 2 years after Beaumont, I thought I'm going to take a week off. And I did not like anchoring the evening news. No offense to a ton of my friends who do it. I just find it so boring.
Wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me. The morning show idea, because I had heard about, the Today Show, and my old boss happened to move to Phoenix, and he goes, "You've got to see this morning show, Good Morning Arizona. This gal is awesome. She reminds me of you. You're doing lifestyle. You're doing cooking segments. There's a
always different
interview with a politician. It's always different, and it's everything, and it's ad lib." And I'm like, that sounds great. Took a week off. I thought it's time to get an agent. Tracked down an agent who represented somebody I liked. Sent her a tape. She asked what I wanted to do. I said, I think I want to do a morning show. She goes, well, that morning show that you mentioned, that gal is leaving. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Where's she? And I was 25 at the time. I go, where's she going? The Today Show. I'm like, no way, really? She goes, yeah, she's Katie Couric's filling on the weekend, and she'll be reporting 3 days a week for the networks. And I'm like, that is amazing. I'm going to send your tape over there. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to hire a 25-year-old from Beaumont to fill the shoes of this woman going to the network. Spoiler alert. They did.
They
and
sure
it was
did.
It was asking, pursuing, and
being curious.
And getting
like our
hired.
friend Ted Lasso always says.
Well, be curious, not judgmental. And I remember about 2 weeks in, I got a letter, and it had all these pretty boats on it. And I'm like, oh, it's probably a viewer sending me a nice, pretty card with boats. And I opened it up, and I still have it somewhere. I should find it. And it said, see those boats on the front? Those boats are so you can row out of there and row out of Arizona. I don't know who hired you, and it went into this whole diatribe. And all I remember thinking was, oh, my gosh, if I lose my job tomorrow, I have had so much fun in these 2 weeks. And I never let that stuff really get to me, and that really helped. I don't know where we were going with this,
I love that story.
These are menopausal tangents.
No, it wasn't at all. You answered the question. I love it. How do you prepare for something scary? I feel like you do a lot of intimidating things and talk to a lot of intimidating people. Like, are you a power pose person? Do you give yourself pep talks?
No, that's actually a great question. I don't know if I've ever had a game plan. I remember competing in speech and debate tournaments. I would get nervous if I advanced to the finals, which, not to brag, happened often. You're now delivering a speech in front of a large group of people. Mm-hmm. And I went through a phase where my knees started to shake, so I would make sure I stood behind the podium. I used to start sweating. I tend to wear black or something dark to not show the sweat stains. So there are goofy tricks like that. I never did
It's more like game time adjustments you can make.
Well, I will always find that the more prepared I am, the easier things are. So what's panic inducing is although again, this is what speech and debate did for me, and this is why I've never really had a problem with it. One of the events I competed in was called extemporaneous speaking. And they would give us 3 current event topics. We'd have 25 minutes to research, and we'd have to deliver a 5 to 7 minute speech on that topic.
Wow.
So that prepared me for, I can sound like I really know what I'm talking about given a short amount of time, and then I'll forget everything I just said, 3 hours later. But that prepared me for moments of, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to go interview celebrity X. I'll try to do my research, but even if I have no notice at all, I've done that before. I can do it quickly. I can quickly get on my phone in 2 minutes and get enough stuff where it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, and I can pull it off. But the best thing to deal with stress or anxiety fueled situations is try to prepare yourself ahead of time, because you're going to be in one. I guess is so the best way. But I don't have any real great tricks of the trade.
Well, I mean, preparation is the trick. I feel like sometimes I'm like over penciling myself and just like, okay, we're doing all the things. And I just lock into it in the moment. And I don't know. I probably, when I think about that, the times that you spend as much time as you can preparing, but sometimes on the opposite side for me, I feel like then have more time to overthink it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because lately some of my favorite interviews are when I didn't have much of a plan. Like I went in there and I didn't
see where it goes.
And again, I only get 3 to 4 minutes. It's not that. So even if I'm filled with anxiety, it goes by quickly. Yeah. It's gone in 4 minutes. But there's truth to that, not being as prepared and just letting things go. And sometimes the magic happens when you It's that same thing. You surrender. If you can learn to surrender, sometimes it's when the best stuff happens anyway.
Surrender? Us?
I know. Us. I'm going to work on that. That's going to be 2024 for me. That is going to be my thing.
Word.
Releasing.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Well,
let me ask you a question. And all the people that you've hung out with in the past couple of years, the actresses, the females, who has become kind of a matriarch to you? Because you've been around some pretty powerful, from Helen Mirren to Michelle Pfeiffer to who getting to know them personally a little bit and seeing how they are. You don't get 4 minutes. You get a lot more time with them. Who's become kind of a matriarch or a role model to you?
I feel like it's all so fast for that night or the couple weeks, but I love, what do we make it? 37 minutes until you couldn't resist, and you are the journalist.
You a question.
That's so funny. No, from the beginning, I was like, why don't we switch? This is your podcast now. You are the pro.
I would love to ask you
I think that I adore Michelle Monaghan. We used to work together, and we recently got to work together a little bit more. And the way that this life that she's created for herself, where she's working, she's in great projects with great co-stars, and like the mom she is and the wife she is and the friend, like she's just the most genuine, gracious person that I've worked with, I think, as far as actors go. Because sometimes, it's just very business with people. And sometimes it's like, we're just really immersed, welcomed into the fold, and you're having every meal together and you're staying up late and you're singing karaoke. It's not always like that. And even sometimes it's just like you're family for 2 weeks and then the movie comes out and then you don't talk to people except for on Instagram. But I feel like that she's been a common thread since I met her 2017, I think.
That's amazing.
Just to watch her, I'm like, I like you so much. I like everything that you're about. And just, she's a good person. Like, I could go on and on. I just got to work with her this week in Vegas. When
I saw that. I was so bummed.
You were missed by all your besties were there.
I saw that.
But getting to see her, and I'm like, she couldn't be more thankful. She's beautiful and talented, but I'm just like, wow, I just want to walk in the room and just be gracious and appreciative and always trying to do the right thing and like love on my people. And like, she takes care of all of her, but it's just
you need to get her on. I know she'll do your podcast. You need to get her on eventually.
Going to be.
Oh, good.
Her and her.
I can't wait.
It'll be great. What about you?
Oh my gosh, I haven't spent enough quality time with these people. But in terms of an actress that maybe I've interviewed that I admire, I mean, I do think Halle Berry and Charlize Theron are pretty kick-ass. They're both moms. They're both powerhouse. Same with Sandra Bullock, and she's been through a lot. So they all have, from divorces to, in Sandra Bullock's case, the death of her longtime boyfriend. I mean, she has been through a lot. And they are just always, again, pleasant, gracious. They care about their health. I've learned a lot about health from watching them as a woman. They're very open. They're all aging actresses that are very open in that process. So I like those. I like those gals. But I wish I could say I knew them personally. I really don't.
I haven't worked with any of them, so I just think I know them personally from watching, consuming their content. So you're closer than I am. But I think that's cool to be inspired by people. Maybe you haven't. You're like, I just got a taste of your energy and personality, and I was like, oh, you're so inspiring, even from afar. But I love that. Well, let's talk about your matriarch. So, if we're talking about grandmas, how much time did you spend together? You were all in the same city. Like, did you see them?
I saw them pretty regularly. My father's mother, they owned a lake house in upstate New York that we still go to every summer. So I would see her all summer long, every summer. My mother's mother ended up with a home. Sadly, my grandfather died. Actually, he was killed right in front of my grandmother. I know, that's a whole separate story, but she and how she handled that served as a big inspiration to me as well. And she ended up getting a place down in the Jersey Shore. So we would spend some time with her there. She ended up living with us for a little bit in Texas as she underwent her breast cancer journey, but they were great. So I got to spend a nice chunk of time with both of them.
That's so nice. I feel like, and probably such different, I mean, although both grandparents and both parents of your parents, very different people.
Well, let me say this real quick. How are we on time? Are we running out of time? Because the one thing I did do when my grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer, I gave her a journal. She always had such great stories. And I called her Bobchi. I said, Bobchi, no pressure. I'm not, not that I think your days are numbered, but you've got such great stories. This will give you something to do. She was getting treatment at the time at Sloan Kettering in New York City. And I swore I would never read it until after she passed away. And I'm so pissed. I did that because when she finally passed, she had, stories about my grandfather. I'm reading this and I'm of course very emotional and moved. And just as she was getting to the good stuff is when she passed away. And had I been more control freaky like I normally am, I would be like, Bobchi, I don't care about this story. Move on to the good stuff. So anybody out there listening, if you have matriarchs in your life, I encourage you to ask them, either record them or jot down these stories. Don't wait. Don't do the thing that I did where I'm going to, they can do it on their own time and I won't look at it until after all is said and done. Be proactive in how you record their stories so that you can remember them and pass them down.
It's such good advice. Do you feel like that was at the juicy stuff you were getting to? Like what, was it like dreams accomplished or like a sassy love affair or like what?
No, I wanted all the stuff about my grandfather and his wooing of her. And she's telling me, about a childhood friend in third grade. I'm like, I could care less about that. Get to the good stuff. But had I been monitoring it, I would have been able to steer in the right direction. So that's maybe.
What do you think was the biggest accomplishment or regret of her life?
I don't know if she had any regrets. Her family again, she loved her husband. She would never date. There was a guy who wanted to date her and he bought a car just so he could drive down and see her. And she was in her 70s at the time and had zero interest. She had one love in her life. And, oh man, now here come the tears. Oh. She was awesome.
I
actually thought I was going to make it through.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she was the best.
What do you admire most about her? Which one are we talking about?
We're talking about, well, you could talk about them both the same way, actually. Bobchi in particular, just the grace. She had to deal with a little bit more because of the death of my grandfather, but the way he died. The grace, the stoicism, the class, her sense of humor. I mean, all of it.
Did she
all of it?
I mean...
and that's actually, it's interesting. Here's a regret. She might not have agreed, but it was definitely a regret. She was one of those women who... And others of that generation are probably the same way. She would probably still be alive if she had let people know she had a lump in her breast when she found it, but she didn't want to burden anybody, so she didn't say anything.
That is such a grandma thing.
Oh, my God. And it kills me, especially in this day and age when we're surrounded by all these great breakthroughs. And that diagnosis is just a diagnosis, not a death sentence. So that's a great example of, hopefully she would say that was a regret of hers. But that was also the time. That was also the way that she was probably raised. And that is a bummer. That's an understatement.
Yeah. What is the best advice you've ever received or something that stuck with you that she told you? Or either of the grandmas?
Do what you love. I mean, that's the best advice. They instilled, and I will give my mom credit for my number one passion. My mom loves to travel, and that's my favorite thing in the world is to travel. So my mom definitely deserves credit for my love of travel. My grandparents as well, because she traveled thanks to them. And they were always about education and travel and do what you want to do. I was always brought up to believe that I could do whatever I wanted. I had opportunities. I was loved. I was supported. I was told, I was never really told I was cute, but constantly told I had a great personality. I was intelligent. I was witty. I was fun. And so I grew up, fortunately, thinking that's the stuff that matters anyway. Although now with Instagram, I'm kind of concerned that I need to start, maybe just a little tweak right here, right at the jowls, right at the jowls.
That's the hard part of living in the digital age where you're just like, God, what everybody is doing a little 5, 6, 7, 8 on their face. And
I want the full Monty. I've been Instagram following this doctor out of San Diego. I'm like, when I get 80 grand,
just a cool 80 grand slides in.
Just right here.
Just a couple little. What's one word to describe your matriarch?
Classy. Grace, class, strength. I've got several words.
Yeah, so many words.
Probably strength. I'll pick strength out of those 3.
Oh, you can have 3 words.
All right. slide them in there.
Slide them in. Okay, a couple rapid fire. Is there a song, phrase, piece of jewelry that makes you think of your matriarchs?
The one I'm very superstitious. One of the, besides my wedding ring, I've got this ring that was given to Bobchi by her husband years ago, and so I got this as a gift from them, or for my grandmother. And so that means the world to me. I usually wear it when I fly. And then during the course of the flight, whether it is an international 10-hour flight or to Burbank, I turn my rings inside like this, and I have my fingers like this the entire flight.
It's like a fidget spinner
weird,
thing.
Just like this. But yeah, so this ring. Simple,
beautiful.
Love it.
I love it. And you can have it with you and use it all the time. That's amazing. Yes. What's your favorite age you've been so far and why? And what would you think your grandma's answer would be?
My favorite age?
Yeah.
Gosh, I've got great stuff in every decade. Not loving
better.
53 just yet because I've got to deal with the hormone stuff.
Blessed.
But I'll get it. 54 could be my year. I don't know. Probably, the year I met my husband and my kind of your age. Those were great. Those were great years. But I've had great years every decade.
You have a lot of fun.
I do. I've had a great life. I'm very, very blessed.
You're just getting started.
Just getting started.
I love it. Well, if we could call your matriarch right now, what would you say to her?
Oh my gosh, so much.
I was like, talk about the tears.
I know. I don't want to think about it. Oh man. Damn you, Oprah. I mean, Courtney. Just honestly, thank you.
That says it all.
Yeah, kind of sums it up. I mean, they were just the best. Jeez, you're killing me.
I'm sorry, guys. Go call your grandmas or your mom or your aunt or your matriarch, okay?
Just thank them.
Forever.
I'm filled with gratitude when it comes to my family, for sure.
You're amazing. You're an amazing person, and the only way that you would be was because of the amazing people that
help raised you.
Tara,
thanks.
Thank you for being here.
I just want to stare at your pink velvet. You just look so fab.
Wow. We'll get you one. We can just be walking around town in our pink velvet suits. Women rule. You rule, Tara Hitchcock. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having
You're iconic.
me.
You're such an inspiration for me. And I love any chance I get to see. I mean, we started as such like our first lady hang date was like, so just, I don't know. I want to say like kind of not even formal, but it was just like surface level.
Yeah.
And then now it's just like, girl,
you've been amazing. It's been so fun. You've been so motivating to me too, because you lose your love of this job a little bit. I mean,
I'm sure
you've been doing it for so long, and you have just inspired me in many, many ways, and kept that spark going.
The feeling's mutual.
Oh, this has been fun.
Thank you
Congrats
for being here.
On your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you want to see more of Tara, go to @Tara on TV on Instagram. And go read her full bio because we just got 1/8 of it, really.
Whatever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody. Bye.